Hollow Nest. Dark, dreary, moody, and filled with killer insects. This is the location the critically acclaimed Hollow Knight takes place in, and today I'll be recounting to you all my adventures in this decaying kingdom. Hollow Knight is a work by Team Cherry. It's their first game that after release the team added a myriad of free content updates for, one of which ended up spiraling into its own full game, that being the infamous Silksong. By the time this video goes up, Silksong may already be out, as it surprisingly got a trailer and a release date for September this year, against all odds. I was working on this before news on it came out, so this is just lucky timing on my part, and yet another case where a game people waited years for sort of just came out without me personally waiting on it. By the time I finally got my hands on the Kingdom Hearts series, 3 was already out. Persona 5 was announced in 2013, but I wasn't a Persona fan yet until I borrowed the game off one of my friends in class in 2016, but we're getting way off topic. I first played Hollow Knight back in the dumpster fire that was 2020. The pandemic had hit, so my high school sent us into remote learning, but little did we know we would be returning to in-person until 2022, I believe. Yeah, you tell a 14-year-old they're supposed to be on a computer in their room paying attention to a Zoom class when their teachers don't even know how to run the class, and you got access to your entire gaming catalog and a shit ton of free time. Safe to say, while I was watching our world burn, Hollow Knight was immersing me in theirs. I haven't fully played Hollow Knight since 2020, and I remember not doing all the side content because I found it super difficult, nor did I get the true ending of the story. Just finishing the game was a challenge for me at the time, and watching the credits roll after spending months on the game was fulfilling enough. So no Grim True, none of what the Lifeblood update added, and no Godmaster. Since then, I've found enjoyment in tackling optional hard challenges in games I enjoy, or playing titles in genres where the point is that it's hard, like the Soul series. So coming into Hollow Knight for this video, I was ready for the smoke. I would do a typical story synopsis, but this is one of those environmental storytelling games where a lot of the hows and whys making this kingdom like this is told in pieces in the background and who you meet, whether it be from the few friendly NPCs or seeing something in your path or the backdrop that slowly clues you in on what's happening here. And I won't lie, knowing all this going in, I'm not super good at putting the pieces together to get a concrete understanding of what went down. That's what the lore video research binge after my playthrough is for. I was here purely for the gameplay and the infectious vibe of the world, but the story is there for players who wish to seek that stuff out, and I love it for that. Hell, your main character doesn't say a word the whole game. In the opening, you're shown this thing locked up and pulsing with this orange stuff, and then your main character is just strolling to the entrance of Hollow Nest, ready to take on all on his way. Though right off the bat, the opening thrusts you into the moody vibes of Hollow Nest. This game has a fantastic art style, and the way Team Cherry uses blacks, grays, and muted colors to emphasize the decay of this kingdom and what remains of its inhabitants is nothing short of fantastic. There's areas like the climb to the Coliseum of Fools, where there's falling warriors tumbling from the arena that sometimes falls on the platforms you're using to climb, which is pretty funny. The Crystal Cave is very pretty, but also the location of a mining operation with conveyor belts netting you access to higher chambers of this crystal maze. Green Path and the fungal area are just pretty to look at, bursting with lush plants and flowers, and something I love is that every area has a unique color tint to it that immediately lets you know what area you're in or which ones you might be near. Your move pool is extremely limited to start. All you can do is swipe at enemies with your nail, but the more you explore, the more your options for not only combat but movement open up, as is tradition in a Metroidvania. Killing enemies have them drop Geo, which is used as currency to trade with the merchants you come across on your journey, that then post up in Dirt Mount, which acts as the central starting area. These guys can give you anything from keys to open up simple locks around Hollow Nest to straight up upgrades to your overall health and soul gauge capacity in the form of these mask and magic vessels, so getting a stockpile of Geo is very important. On death, you drop all your Geo and return to the last bench you sat at, which sort of act like bonfires in Dark Souls. Another punishment is getting your aforementioned soul gauge cut in half, which is a meter that builds when slapping enemies, and you can then use it to heal yourself, but you need to stand in place for a second or two to do so, which opens you up to potentially taking more damage, so you need to find a safe period in a fight to heal, which almost every enemy has a brief moment during their attack patterns, even if it's very tiny, for you to get a quick heal off. You get your meteor and Geo back by killing your Shade or Shadow, but if you die again before killing it, you lose all your Geo and still must track it down to get your whole soul gauge back. One of the first movement upgrades you'll probably find is when you eventually make your way into the Mantis hideout. I love this area. Beforehand, you make your way through the beautiful yet perilous fungal waste and see all the natural mushrooms that grow everywhere, and these cute little shroom guys that live down here. But the further you go in, you begin seeing unnatural structures that look like a tribe is posted up here, and upon pressing further in, you're assaulted by these Mantis people who made their own little base inside the mushroom area, and eventually you fight their leaders, and upon defeat, you earn their respect in the Mantis Claw, which allows you to perform the wall jump while also making it so the Mantis bow to you in respect. I still kill them anyway, cause sometimes they're just in the way. Another ability that's super useful is the Mothwing Cloak in Green Path, a typical air dash that can help you get to areas just out of reach from a normal jump, and it's great for quickly getting out of dodge during bosses. No invincibility frames though, so you really gotta pay attention as to not smack into shit. That is until you find an upgrade to this ability called the Shade Cloak, which makes your dash phase through enemies and their attacks, but it immediately goes on cooldown, so you can't just dash through everything. Visually, it looks a lot like the energy circulating around a particularly creepy area, the Ancient Basin, this dark hole in the ground beneath Hollowness where you can find a boss called the Broken Vessel, defeat him, and gain arguably the most useful ability in the game, the Monarch Wings. They give you an extra jump, and it refreshes every time you jump off a wall, so you can use it to perform some clean platform maneuvers that's super satisfying to do. Now, usually my problem with Metroidvanias that made them so hard for me to get into at first was figuring out how to actually progress. Oftentimes, I find myself getting an ability in, say, Super Metroid, and then spending an hour or 3 scouring every corner of the map I've already been to, just to figure out where I can actually use that power to make some progress. Sometimes I just get hard stuck and it takes me a hot minute to find the right way. It mostly comes down to the map. I just can't remember specifically what's in each of these blocks until I've gone through them enough times. This is where Hollow Knight excels for me. One of the merchants you come across is the Map Bug. He's awesome, super nice, and I love how you immediately know when he's nearby because you'll see his papers on the floor and you can hear him humming in the distance. You can buy a map of the current area you're in once you find him, and they're pretty cheap, but that's because the map is incomplete. At any point by hitting the left shoulder button, you can pull up the map and it will usually show the important areas of interest with an outline, but the rest of the area you gotta chart out yourself by exploring and then sitting at the bench to write down what you found. The best part about it is 2 things. 1. Most of the time when you're traveling around filling out your map, it's not just interconnected blocks, your character actually draws little pictures of whatever is inside the rooms. Like how in Green Path he draws the floor of this long hallway to the western half of the area as jagged, which helps me remember that it's a long spiky bed of spikes. Say that 2 times fast. Or if there's a statue in the room, he may draw that, and this helps me immensely when traveling, to not only remember what's in the room, but also to somewhat better memorize the rooms around it. So if I find a plot important item that needs to be placed somewhere, I'll have a few ideas as to where it can go and can just look at the map and go to where I think it needs to be placed. Nine Souls also did this, and it's another reason why that game was easier to navigate for me. And 2, thank God for the Map Bug's wife. She sells pins you can place on the map. This feature is something that saved me hours of meandering. You can buy her map markers in a set of 6 and you unlock more as the game goes on, and every time I encountered a dead end or a spot where I clearly need an item to continue to move forward, I could just place a pin and come back when I have the upgrade or key item to progress, and it's so nice. I swear, it's due to this I damn near was able to 112% the game without having to rely on a guide. I did look up the solution to one part that troubled me, but we'll get to them. The pins, man. The aforementioned masks and magic vessels can also be found in the world, and I got so many just by looking at my map and seeing a pin in a place I couldn't go before, and returning with my new abilities. This also led me to finding more of another central mechanic in this game, the charms. This is such a neat mechanic. Usually progression in a Metroidvania is linear. You go from nothing to a full-on powerhouse, but there isn't much in the way of player expression usually. Hollow Knight introduced the charm system where while sitting at a bench you can equip and unequip these charms you find on your adventure, provided you have enough notches to fit the charm on, which more can be found in the world as well as bought from one of the store merchants in Dirtmouth. These can do anything from extend the length of your nail, meaning you don't have to get so close to your enemies, give you extra health with the lifeblood charms, make focusing magic slower but you gain 2 hit points instead of 1, or protecting you from small scale damage while you focus. It's up to you how you want your charm setup to be, and everyone has a different playstyle, so players will have a myriad of varying charm setups. Personally, in overworld exploration, I stuck with both nail extension charms so I could hit enemies without even having to put myself in danger, while having the Dream Shield charm, which has this floating shield circle you which blocks stray projectiles while also turning itself into a blade that deals small damage to enemies, which is also extremely useful. And the Compass charm, because I'm directionally challenged. They wouldn't allow you to kit yourself out in so many combat focused ones that the bosses didn't have the challenge to give them their worth, and this was where my memory of the 2020 playthrough set me up in that aspect. I remember this game being ball-bustingly difficult, spending days to a full week on certain bosses like the Watcher Knights. I hated this fight back then, and the Soul Master at the top of the City of Tears gave me the bitchiest time. But this go around, I beat the vast majority of Hollow Knight's base game bosses on my first or second try. Don't get me wrong, that didn't mean the charms weren't still useful, they helped immensely in that task. My charm setup had combat use too, being able to hit these guys without getting too close, allowing me to more easily dodge their attack patterns, which are usually really fun to learn and overcome in damn near every encounter. There wasn't a single boss that I didn't enjoy fighting. Straight west from the City of Tears entrance, you can find a nailsmith that will upgrade your nails damage if you pay him Geo and give him Pale Ore, which can be found around the world. The difference is significant too. You go from taking 2 or 3 swipes to kill a regular enemy to just 1, it's amazing. So my playstyle was avoid getting hit while smacking foes back 10 times harder, and with the help of other nail arts like the Cyclone maneuver, which melts boss health when used properly, and the most satisfying to use for me, the Great Slash, one powerful slice that really feels like you're cutting the fuck out of your enemy. Like I said, I definitely leaned more into the hit hard as fuck and weave build, and it allowed me to totally obliterate most of these bosses. At some point you'll find yourself at the Dreamer's Memorial, where you'll go inside the Dream Realm, I'ma call it, and you'll acquire an item called the Dream Nail. With it, you can now access the Dream Bosses, where you'll see specters in areas you've already been to, and you can challenge them to a fight that usually isn't too challenging, but you get rewarded with essence that powers up the Dream Nail. Take it to this old lady and she'll give you various rewards like more Pale Ore to upgrade your nail, or further upgrades to your health and magic. Hands down, the best thing you get from her is another Dream Nail ability to set down a warp point you can then travel to from anywhere in the map. It takes a fair amount of essence to unlock this, but it's so worth it. I placed mine right inside her house so that I can always quickly get back to the stag station right below her, and if I push even further down, I have quick access to the Coliseum of Fools, the aforementioned arena that has 3 challenges to take on where you fight enemies in varying conditions. The stag station allowing you to travel to any other stag station that you have unlocked by hitting the bell when you find one. Super useful, as well as the tram station, but you need to find a ticket to use that one first. Anyways, the first 2 Coliseum challenges weren't a problem, but the third one has you fighting a lot of the more annoying mooks in very claustrophobic conditions, god damn! But it's worth it though, because when you beat each of these, you get Geo, a Charm Notch, and 1 Pale Ore, all of which are always appreciated. But fuck the third challenge with the Spitterfly things hovering above a bed of spears, dude. You can DuckTales style pogo on the spears, but oftentimes they get smacked by enemy projectiles. Though it is satisfying as fuck to just narrowly dash between 2 enemies to get to a safe vantage point and then smack the shit out of them. Oftentimes it's not the whole challenge that's difficult, just select choke points within them, sort of like another challenge in this game, but we will get there. With your Dream Nail, you can now wake up the 3 sleeping dreamers, which are usually protected by a boss. At least the teacher was for me. I had to fight the jellyfish to get to her. The trio are marked on the map after you get the Dream Nail, but the other 2 were just sitting there waiting to be woken up. Maybe I fought the boss protecting them long before I got the Dream Nail, but after waking one of them, this nasty infection shit spreads everywhere and changes the crossroads area to be low-key more annoying to navigate. You can't cross straight through some areas anymore, you have to go under and around to reach Green Path now due to all the rubble. On top of this, the enemies in this area and some others are now infected with this shit and are stronger and shoot the infection out as a projectile. I believe the story context for this, to my understanding, is that the sleeping dreamers are the ones keeping the original Hollow Knight, who took on this infection to preserve the kingdom, locked up in this cave, and since we're undoing this, the infection is so strong, waking just one causes all this bullshit. But now that all of them are awoken, you can finally challenge the OG Hollow Knight. After I do all the side content, I wanted to finally experience it for the first time. After maxing out the Dream Nail, I managed to make my way into the White Palace area, and it was cool. I liked the different platforming challenges and the bosses here, but mainly I got excited when I finally found my way into the Path of Pain. I've heard murmurs about this over the years and was super amped to see how long it'd take me to beat it. I finished it in a 45-minute recording session before work. Initially when I beat it, I had a feeling of that's it, mostly due to me building up in my head over the years after being told it was super difficult. Getting used to the timing of the patterns was the hardest part, but it was super fun to run through. I can see why speedruns of the Path of Pain exist. I was in a Discord call with my friends listening to me play this, and when I was showing shock at how easy it was for me to clear it, one of them promptly told me to take a gander around my room and take a wild guess as to why that may be. It still took me that long because at the end of the day it is a fairly challenging platforming set piece, but it's no Daredevil Grandmaster Galaxy or Champions Road if you catch my drift. But on to Grim. Inside this cave in the side of Howling Cliffs, you'll find a lantern that when you light summons Grim's circus posse, which Grim's a cool boss, but you have to charge up this minion thing he gives you to fight him. Tracking down the new mob that powers the minion is easy, they appear on your map and it's just a matter of going to and dispatching of the dudes. I didn't actually fight Grim's final form, I opted to break the cycle, which caused the tent to leave for this save file. Looking back on it, the Grim stuff wasn't much, but it was really cool. By this point I already fought the fight Lifeblood at it, which is in this really sick beehive area. I really liked exploring this place. Every enemy is cute, deadly, or both, but you can fight this bee knight in here. That was a really fun challenge. But all of this pales in comparison to the real challenge that delayed this video by a whole week or so. The goddamn Damn Pantheons. I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. The first 3 Pantheons are easy. They throw some new bosses at you like the Nail Brothers, Nail Master, Paint Master, and some other cool ones, but Pantheon 4 was where I started struggling because it's been a hot minute since I fought the Hollow Knight, and he's one of those ones with the wide-reaching attack range and strength that hits like a truck, so I kept dying to him. Also, since I did the Pantheons before the actual final boss, I beat both in-game bosses before officially fighting them in the story, which is strange. Kinda figured they would bar you from doing so, but if you find the key to get into the Pantheon before you beat the game, you can do all of it right then and there. After beating P4, that's when P5 reared its ugly head. Look, once you know the fights, none of the Pantheons including P5 are as difficult. They're more so draining because after every failed attempt, you have to run through every boss again. And that shit gets tiring, especially in P5's case because it's every boss in the game you have to run through. You do get break rooms with a hot spring that refills your soul gauge and your health, but fuck up in a run and it's back to boss 1, and honestly, I had no issues with that until I fought Nightmare Grim. I've been resisting the urge to say Grimjaw this whole video, bear with me y'all. Nightmare Grim is faster, more aggressive, and does more damage than his original fight. And I never did his encounter because I made the tent go away, so I had to learn the subtle but crucial differences mid-encounter, and ooh, that was annoying because he is the third to last boss in the fucking Pantheon. I didn't realize at this point that I could lab him in the room at the bottom of the Pantheon entrance, so in order to learn his patterns, I kept slamming my head against him over and over until I caved and looked up a video of someone beating him and studied his pattern. Did the same with another boss coming up, but fuck, I wish I knew you could fight these guys as much as you want earlier. The Hollow Knight was more of the same, but then he showed up. Fucking Radiance. I've never seen this guy before, I knew nothing about him and didn't even know he was the last fight, but he had that aura of a final encounter, so I went in, and well, this guy was driving me insane because every time I fought him I would get hit by a myriad of swords, beams, balls, spikes, and more balls. I thought this motherfucker was doing more damage on average than the other bosses because I would get to him and just fucking croak. So I did it. I walked my ass to the room where you lab the fights and his door opened up inviting me to a world of torment. I walked in and did his fight on normal difficulty and my dumbass got confused and thought it was weird. It felt he wasn't doing as much damage as before and proceeded to switch this shit to ascended difficulty to lab him thinking it was the normal fight. I did not need to do this. The normal difficulty is what P5's fight is, and I was putting myself through hours upon hours of hardship for no reason because I'm an idiot. I almost beat this fight though. I got to the top but couldn't close it out, but once I realized I'm playing this fight on a harder difficulty, I was ready. I crawled through P5 one last time, got to Radiance, beat his first phase, survived his second phase, and after one final climb to the top, I was on that man's dick. I did carousels on that motherfucker and eventually took him out, and that was the most euphoric feeling I felt from a video game in a while. I did study this thing's pattern as well from a video, and that's how I found out his annoying light beam attack. They never hit the same spot twice, so after knowing that, I knew I was in there. Beating P5 was pure bragging rights. There's nothing left for me to collect. I had already gotten all the masks and gotten all the soul vessels. I just needed to beat P5 and then beat the game. Hollow Knight has 2 endings, one where you become the new Hollow Knight and take on the infection yourself, saving Hollowness, and another where, with the help of the Hornet, you dream nail the Hollow Knight and fight Radiance, which ends in your character's death, I guess? Neither ending really did it for me, but it was more the experience getting here that made me love Hollow Knight now, more than ever. And I wholeheartedly think people should play it, especially if you're into Metroidvanias. It may get a little challenging, but it is totally worth it. Anyways, for my next video, I will be replaying and talking about a game I've loved from the bottom of my heart, and that's Tui. Or for those who don't know, The World Ends With You. I cannot believe I'm about to talk about this fire fucking game. I can't wait to replay it. Depending on how it goes, I may throw in a Neo Tui video afterwards, but we'll see. Anyways, I thank you all for watching if you made it this far, and have a great day. Peace. Take 3 of recording the outro. Also, y'all getting that fan audio. It's hot as fuck in here. But, yeah, what's it called? As always, if you made this part of the video where I'm just yapping about random shit, I appreciate it. I hope I get to do Neo too, because I really like that game. But what's it called? I do want to make more Sonic videos by the end of the year, but at the same time though, like, I don't know. We'll just see what happens. I don't like making promises because I work a lot, so fucking, and sometimes I just don't have the energy to come home after working at it. But at the same time though, I do want to see if I can get more stuff done by the end of the year, but we'll see. Anyways, hope you all stay safe. You know, it's crazy out here. Yeah, y'all be easy. Peace.